have low vision or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. And good morning. Your Niagara Frontier radio reading service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Monday, July 20th. And your readers today are
Ruth Nowotniak
and Ted Pajacki. And we'll start off with the weather for the week. And it'll be sunny to partly cloudy today with a high of 78. Possible thunderstorm in spots later tonight, the low of 66. A couple of showers and a heavy thunderstorm tomorrow, and the thunderstorms can really be quite intense and increase the possibility of flash flooding and damaging winds. The high will be 72, and Wednesday there'll be a little bit more rain and a high of 70. And the rest of the week looks then to be a little rainy on Wednesday, sunny on Thursday and Friday, possibility of a shower on Saturday. The normal high and low for today are 81 and 64. The record high was 92 degrees in 1916, and the record low was a cool 50 degrees in 1912. Last year, the high was 82 and the low was 58. The air quality index for today, we still have some of that smoke around, so it's still in the unhealthy range, over 100. So the little trivia for today is, which month does the U.S. get the most solar radiation? And thankfully we're past that already because it was last month. It was the month of June. And now we turn to Ruth and the news.
Thank you, Ted. 4 Niagara County families being relocated due to radiation found on properties. And this is a new staff reporter's article, Mackenzie Schumann. 4 Niagara County families are being relocated due to high levels of radiation found on their properties. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is evacuating the families out of an abundance of caution and voluntarily, Region 2 Administrator Mike Martucci said in a call with the media on Sunday afternoon. These offers were made because we want to be sure that we're doing everything we can to protect these families from potential exposure while we evaluate their properties in greater detail, Martucci said. The 4 families told the Buffalo News that the relocation process has been chaotic. As of Sunday afternoon, none of the families had been offered permanent solutions for relocating them and their pets. The EPA, along with the State Department of Environmental Conservation, had found the elevated radiation on the properties after conducting aerial surveys beginning in October of 2023 and vehicle surveys beginning last summer. In March, the agencies sent letters to 121 Western Niagara County property owners informing them that the agencies needed permission to access the properties to further survey the radiation. Excuse me. As of Sunday, 39 homeowners have signed access agreements allowing further survey for radiological materials. Of those, 33 were cleared, DEC Commissioner Amanda Lefton said during the call on Sunday. That means that essentially nothing was found that requires additional investigation. Another 6 properties required further investigation, including the 4 that are currently being evacuated. On those properties, radiation levels up to nearly 25 times above background levels were detected, according to data sent to the news from homeowners. What we're dealing with here, which I think is very concerning, is chronic long-term exposure, because that's really what increases the risk for cancer and other health concerns, New York State Department of Health Commissioner James McDonald said during the Sunday call. So we're taking this very seriously. Learning of the high levels of radiation found on her property has been distressful, said Lexi Hawk, a member of one of the 4 families being relocated. This is traumatizing, she said. We're never going to feel safe anywhere we go. This stuff's invisible. Hawk, her fiancé, and 3-year-old daughter have been staying with family over the past several days. The EPA has also found the family a short-term rental just for Sunday night, Hawk said. The other 3 families have not yet been offered a place to stay as of Sunday afternoon. The other families being relocated include Carolyn and John Johnson, Jacqueline and Jeremy Linkowski, and Kelly and Mike Moitka. Of the families living in the neighborhood just south of Reservoir State Park in the town of Niagara, and none have been offered an acceptable long-term place to stay as of Sunday. As an intermediate step, we offered hotel accommodations to folks who would be able to take advantage of those, Martucci said. Those hotel accommodations, we certainly realize, are not suitable in many cases for an entire family that was previously living in a house. Each of the 4 families has pets, including cats, dogs, and fish, and some have young children, making moving to hotel rooms exceedingly difficult. Martucci said it takes time to find proper housing for the families. It was unclear how long the families would need to be relocated. The radiation on the properties could be coming from radioactive slag dumped there as fill material. Radioactive slag, a waste byproduct of the chemical industry, has been discovered at Niagara Falls State Park, a Niagara Falls bowling alley, and at the Holy Trinity Cemetery in Lewiston, under the properties of at least 14 Lewiston, Grand Island, Buffalo, Ransomville, and Niagara Falls homes at the Donovan Head Start building in Niagara Falls, and under the South Buffalo Tesla plant. Radioactive slag is made when naturally occurring radioactive materials in metals and coal are concentrated during superheated industrial processing. It is unclear how much slag was produced, how much of it was radioactive, and how much was used for fill in Erie and Niagara counties. A community meeting will be held at 5 p.m. Monday at the Niagara Falls Convention Center. The DEC and EPA will give a presentation about the radiation found in Niagara County, and community members will be able to ask questions of agency experts.
Also on today's front page, news from Washington. The president stays mum on strategy as death toll rises. If President Trump knows where he wants to take the war in Iran, he's giving little sign of it publicly. The conflict continued to spiral over the weekend, with both sides trading attacks in the aftermath of an Iranian strike that killed 2 U.S. service members in Jordan and injured others. Iran and the United States have largely abandoned the tentative peace deal that the president had touted. The week of escalating strikes underscored the risk that the conflict will reignite in full again, even as the man who started it stayed silent, only acknowledging the U.S. troop fatalities in a brief conversation with a media outlet. U.S. Central Command announced Sunday that a 3rd service member died the day before during a controlled detonation of an unexploded Iranian drone in northern Iraq. And the U.S. said unidentified remains of another victim in Friday's Jordan strike were being examined. As the conflict turns deadly again for the U.S. military, where Trump will take the fight now is not clear. He has so far stopped short of ordering a substantial escalation and called on Sunday for Congress to roll new Iranian penalties into a Russian sanctions bill. He invoked the wishes of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, although Jeanne Shaheen, a Democrat, said Graham didn't want the two combined. As Trump spent Sunday celebrating the World Cup final in New Jersey, his administration signaled it would simply maintain the status quo in the Middle East. I think, in the short term, unfortunately, we're in an escalatory cycle, said Mona Yacobin, the director of the Middle East program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a Washington-based think tank. The U.S. response after Friday's fatal strike indicated an attempt at restraint, but the broken trust on both sides makes de-escalation difficult, she said. This is a more dangerous moment than we've had in the past. With the on and off conflict now in its 21st week, the end game for either side is as unclear as ever, a warning sign both for the global economy and for Trump, who said one reason he agreed to a ceasefire is that he did not want to become the next Herbert Hoover, the president during the 1929 stock market crash that triggered the Great Depression. The administration sent mixed messages over the weekend as the U.S. death toll hit 17 since the war began on February 28th. Central Command announced the deaths and retaliatory strikes, while Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the soldiers' deaths will only strengthen U.S. resolve. Trump aide Dan Scavino posted a cryptic video of a B-2 bomber in flight, set to the tune of the Nessun Dorma aria, while the U.S. is reportedly moving more refueling planes into the region, teasing a potential escalation. The White House declined to address the report. The president made no mention of Iran during a pre-game interview on the Fox broadcast of the Spain-Argentina soccer match, and a flurry of social media posts focused more on a recent economic announcement and renovation projects in Washington, D.C. Instead, it was Energy Secretary Chris Wright who took to the airwaves on Sunday morning on the administration's behalf, attempting to calm concerns and pledge that the Strait of Hormuz had not yet ground again to a de facto halt. It's tragic to lose American lives, but this is a mission that will save countless lives going forward, Wright said on ABC's This Week, that Trump's focus is on degrading the Iranian ability to terrorize the world, to hold world commerce hostage as they are doing right now, and to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. That is unchanged. Wright held open the door to a détente. Quote, "The president is always looking for a diplomatic off-ramp. President Trump wants to end it with a peaceful agreement with Iran, but it takes two parties to do that." End quote. Total shipments out of the Gulf, both through the Strait of Hormuz and pipelines used to avoid it, is at about 2/3 of pre-conflict levels, Wright said. Michael Hanlon, the director of Research and Forest Policy Program at the Brookings Institute, said he worried Trump may be repeating mistakes of Vietnam and other past American conflicts. If you try to create just the right amount of psychological and strategic pressure, not too hot, not too cold, history suggests it's very hard to do that, he said, adding that Iran appears to be betting on Trump's desire to reach a deal to buoy his midterm election prospects. Right now, they think that he's desperate for a deal, and they're tougher than he is, O'Hanlon said. He may have to, just as a matter of legacy, accept that he very well may lose those chambers, starting an acknowledgement that and saying, if it means I have to keep pressure on Iran for 6 more months, I'll do it. The spiraling conflict underscores the quagmire risk of foreign interventions, the type of which Trump and Vice President Vance have long criticized. Trump has mused previously about ramping up American efforts, including potentially attempting to seize Carrig Island, a crucial oil export hub. And each passing week puts further strain on U.S. military supplies and ships that continue to stretch their time away from port. For Trump, there are no good options right now. There are only bad and less bad options, Jacobian said. We are in something that is potentially a phase change in this conflict, and unfortunately, there may need to be more pain inflicted before both sides once again relent.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio service. The time is approximately 15 minutes past the hour, and we will go to our editorial, Duty to the Public. Amherst police have broken with long-standing practice by withholding the identity of a homicide victim for nearly 3 months. If there is a compelling investigative reason for doing so, the department should explain it. If there is not, the public deserves better. As reported by the News' Stephen Watson, just before 11:40 a.m. on April 22nd, Amherst police officers responded to a 911 call on Drayden Lane, indicating that a man was found stabbed in his upper body. He died from his wounds a short time later. While reporting this story, the News found a Facebook comment from Dean Nilopovitz claiming his son, Caden, as the homicide victim. Amherst police said they had withheld his name because the family feared public disclosure would jeopardize the investigation. Dean Nilopovitz confirmed that it was his family's request. The family's wishes deserve respect. However, decisions about what information a government agency releases should not be determined by private individuals. Instead, those decisions must be based on investigative necessity and the public's legitimate interest in knowing what has occurred in its community. Experienced investigators and prosecutors interviewed by the News acknowledge there are circumstances when secrecy is appropriate. But those same experts also recognize how unusual this case is. Paul Wolf, the former New York Coalition for Open Government president, said he had never heard of a police agency waiting months to identify a homicide victim. Transparency is essential to maintaining public confidence. Releasing a victim's identity after next of kin have been notified is standard practice because it informs the community, limits speculation, and demonstrates that government is accountable for its actions. It erodes trust when authorities depart from that practice. Amherst remains one of the safest mid-sized cities and towns in the United States, and largely because of crime rates below the national average. But residents should not have to accept silence on the part of government agencies. However, even the so-called safest communities have unfortunate incidents. There had been no homicides in the town in 9 months since the July 2025 fatal stabbing of 27-year-old Emma Yassin in a motel room on Niagara Falls Boulevard. Nilopovitz was discovered late in the morning of April 22nd outside a home on Drayden Lane off Niagara Falls Boulevard. He later died from his wounds at DeGraff Medical Park in North Tonawanda. News outlets and members of the public can seek police records through New York's Freedom of Information law. The News submitted a FOIL request for records related to the Nilopovitz homicide, but the action does not prevent agencies from denying requests. Certainly, police must protect the integrity of criminal investigations, but they also have an obligation to maintain public confidence through transparency whenever possible. It is the obligation of Amherst Police to explain why withholding even the victim's identity is necessary to solve the case. Otherwise, the public is justified in asking why such extraordinary secrecy continues. The public's right to know at least basic details, excluding something like motivation or anything that would jeopardize the case, should require that the information be shared.
Next, we have the Another Voice column, and today's issue is on animal rights, and it's submitted by Jennifer O'Connor, who's the senior writer for the PETA Foundation. The headline is, "Exploitation on the Midway is Going Out of Style." The state and county fair season is in full swing, but what visitors want is changing. The momentum is clear. Guests are embracing innovative, animal-free entertainment and moving away from exhibitions that depend on exploitation. At forward-thinking fairs across the country, visitors are lining up for interactive exhibits. The Minnesota State Fair's immersive Journey to Space installation simulates the International Space Station with real artifacts, for example, moon rocks, and full-scale spacesuits. At New York's Dutchess County Fair, organizers introduced a virtual reality tractor ride along experience that had folks lining up for hours. Guests participate in an augmented reality scavenger hunt using smartphones at the Iowa State Fair. These fresh ideas are proof that today's fairgoers are open to entertainment that doesn't come at an animal's expense. But too many fairs are still stuck in a bygone era, recycling the same cruel displays. A couple of exhibitors continue to travel the country with lions and tigers, making these wild animals perform demeaning tricks in tiny temporary holding pens and live out of trailers for weeks on end. One particularly egregious exhibitor hauls sea lions, sharks, and stingrays around the country in tiny mobile trailers. At each stop, workers set up 2 above-ground performance pools, a drop in the bucket compared with the vast open ocean where they belong. Sea lions are manipulated with food into doing silly stunts and posing for selfies with strangers, while the sharks and rays are exposed to bacteria and chemicals as fairgoers grope and harass them. Animals on the fair circuit are hauled from one venue to the next in cramped, sweltering trucks with little opportunity to rest or receive medical care. These traveling caravans are notoriously difficult to monitor. Federal oversight is spread thin. The good news is that the shift is underway and change is being driven by the next generation of fairgoers. Today's young people are more environmentally conscious and more compassionate than ever. They're asking questions, and they're not satisfied with answers that treat animals as props. This summer, choose kindness over tradition and leave cruelty in the past, where it belongs. Next we move to the editorial cartoon for today, and it comes to us from Mike Lukovich of the Creators Syndicate. And the image is this. There are 5 people in this cartoon, and 4 of them are seated. One is standing and reading something. Now, they appear to be from the Middle East, probably from Iran. They have turbans on and beards and glum looks on their face. And the leader who is standing says, "There's a sure way to end hostilities against us." And one of the grumpy-looking men on the far right responds by saying, "Nope, we are not investing in Trump meme coins." Take that for what it means.
Our first opinion piece is written by Froma Harup, who's from the Creators Syndicate. Some reasons for not to visit Europe this summer. For some reason, many Americans seem convinced that they have to tour Europe this summer, despite the heat, oppressive crowds, and high prices all descending on the continent. And if anyone needs a fourth reason, it's to recognize the growing resentment among many Europeans as the tourist hordes turn their town centers into trinket malls, eroding their way of life and, in the process, stripping what made those places worth visiting in the first place. The mystery remains why so many Americans insist on their grand tour when they, too, are made miserable by the big 3 discomforts. The heat has become especially brutal. Paris traditionally enjoys a temperate climate. This year, the heat wave has pushed temperatures there well above 100 degrees. Even now, there isn't much air conditioning in Paris. Spain seems the current ground zero for locals trying to get through the rampart of tourists as they go about their day. Barcelona now has a commissioner for sustainable tourism. He says his goal is to keep the numbers down, especially among the unruly brigades there to party rather than absorb the local culture. The city, he says, still welcomes foreigners coming on business. Barcelona's La Boqueria was considered one of Europe's greatest food markets. It offered a bounty of vegetables, fish, and meat that the locals would buy to cook at home. Vendors selling street food to tourists have taken it over, causing many residents to stop going there. This dry, hot summer has set off walls of flame engulfing parts of Spain, Portugal, and Greece. There are many deaths. In Spain, over a dozen retirees, mainly British and Belgian, have gone missing, yet the tourists keep pouring in. 3 years ago, we found ourselves in Paris for a family wedding. The wide plaza fronting Notre Dame Cathedral was so clogged with tourists we had to walk by in the street. The crazy part was that Notre Dame wasn't even open then. It was still closed for reconstruction following the devastating fire several years before. The European Union now has a process at the border called the Entry-Exit System. What it does is subject non-EU visitors to a more exhaustive identity process. The goal, to stop foreigners from sneaking into the the visa-free travel area is understandable. But it ends up subjecting visitors from the U.S., Britain, and other non-EU countries to endless waits to get through passport control. One survey found that negotiating the longest airport lines took over 3 hours. The post-pandemic inflation that Americans complained about was worse in much of Europe, and that's reflected in the prices for restaurant meals, hotels, and airfare. Making it still more expensive is a dollar that has weakened against the euro. Its buying power is down about 4.2% from 2 years ago. Back home, we have shade trees, a bed of zinnias and cardinals splashing in the bird bath. When the temps pass 90, we retreat into the AC. I once determined to visit part of Europe every year or two. It's now been 3 since I've been back. Sure, I'd like to see Barcelona, but I'm going to do myself and the Barcelonians a favor by not going, even though I'm a nice person and can speak Spanish. Save the microwaved paella for someone else.
Well, Ruth, you've convinced me not to go to Europe this summer.
Not this summer, nope.
No. Our next editorial comes from Karl Lubsdorff, and the headline is Democratic Leaders Move to Counter Growing Socialist Winds. For the past decade, Democratic progressives have regularly challenged the party's establishment with intermittent success. This year, they are doing much better, as the renewed energy on the party's left has produced several highly publicized recent victories by Democratic socialists. There are several reasons. A feeling that Democratic leaders have failed to challenge President Trump strongly enough, a reaction to Israel's mistreatment of Palestinians, and the political system's continuing failure to deal with the country's growing income inequality. Whatever the reasons, their triumphs could pose a threat to both Democratic hopes of sweeping success in November and their ability to manage the House next year if they succeed. Progressive challenges over growing income inequality emerged in Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' unsuccessful 2016 and 2020 presidential bids. But they've gained added impetus this year from Trump's failure to redeem his promises to cut prices. Meanwhile, resentment against Democratic Party leaders and opposition to Israel's Gaza and West Bank policies have exacerbated the progressive successes. In a sense, some successes by left-wing candidates in deep blue cities and districts are nothing new. Milwaukee elected a socialist congressman as far back as 1910 and 3 socialist mayors. New York City had a left-wing congressman in the mid-20th century whom foes labeled as akin to a communist. The current White House already has a half dozen leftist Democrats. But the extent of their recent successes, and in some cases their more extreme positions, threaten to hamper Democratic congressional leaders next year, like the Tea Party has bedeviled the GOP. Several primary victors say they are unsure about backing House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York for Speaker if Democrats win control, just like some newly elected members initially withheld support from Nancy Pelosi after the Democrats' 2018 victory. But the more immediate Democratic challenge is to counter the effort by Republican leaders to label recent socialist victories as a communist threat to American democracy in a modern-day version of the early Cold War's era Red Scare. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe since our founding. That includes World War I, World War II, September 11th. It includes the Pearl Harbor attack, said Trump, never one for subtlety. He has raised the issue in every recent speech, declaring, quote, "They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism that they're talking about," end quote. Like much of what Trump says, that's untrue. Unlike communists, Democrats, socialists believe in democracy. That's really happening here. Some analysts say is less ideological than tactical. The current factor driving many Democrats to support left-wing candidates isn't ideology. It's a revolt against the party's leadership and political establishment more broadly, quote, independent pollster Elliot Morris concluded after analyzing recent primary concerns, plus speeches and statements by some of the successful candidates. And Aaron Covey of the nonpartisan Cook Political Report noted that most leftist primary winners ran in heavily Democratic districts, 3 in New York City and 1 in Denver, for example, and Democrats in more competitive districts are mainly choosing center-left candidates, she said. Still, the potential spread of left-wing insurgencies to major swing states has spurred some party leaders to combine forces against them, lest they win primaries and jeopardize party chances in November by bolstering the Republican argument that the party is moving too far left. In both Michigan's Senate race and Wisconsin's gubernatorial contest, major Democratic hopefuls dropped out to head off their leftist rivals in contests where opposition to Israel has emerged as a major progressive issue. In Michigan, polls showing Democratic socialist Abdul El-Sayed leading the race for an open Democratic-held state Senate seat prompted the withdrawal of State Senator Mallory McMorrow, who was running third behind El-Sayed and Representative Haley Stevens, the establishment choice. Top Democrats, who had stayed neutral, endorsed Stevens. El-Sayed has urged an end to U.S. military aid to Israel and criticized Stevens' massive support from the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, the major U.S. pro-Israel lobby. In Wisconsin, Milwaukee County Executive Dave Crowley withdrew from the governor's race and backed Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, hoping to prevent a nomination of State Representative Francesca Hong, a socialist leading in recent polls. Hong, who has made Israel an issue, saying in an interview, quote, "If Wisconsin is going to be a state that actually values human rights, then we have to ensure that we're supporting and fighting for the pro-Palestinian movement," end quote. Some socialist hopefuls are toning down some past statements. Hong, who in 2020 called for defunding the police as a first step towards abolishing the police, told CNN that while she did not disavow the statement, she does not support arbitrary cuts to public safety budgets. In another CNN interview, El-Sayed has also backed off on a prior defund the police statement. In New York, Democratic congressional primary winner Darialisa Avila Chevalier depleted social media posts calling for abolishing police, seizing private property, and questioning Israel's right to exist. But she defended her attendance at a 2023 pro-Hamas rally and said she would consult community leaders before deciding whether to support Jeffries for Speaker. Progressive forces recently suffered a major setback when Oysterman Graham Plattner, the Maine Senate Democratic nominee, was forced to withdraw because of his personal baggage. But they hope for major breakthroughs in next month's Michigan and Wisconsin primaries. In a sense, however, these are preliminary skirmishes. It's 2028 when the party's presidential primary voters will definitively determine its future course.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is approximately 36 minutes past the hour. Buzz around the Bills campus getting louder. Construction of the Buffalo Bills' new stadium may be winding down, but the team's Orchard Park campus is bustling. Work is going on both outside of the new Highmark Stadium to ready the exterior areas for fans next month, and where the old stadium is coming down across the street on the east side of Abbott Road. The new stadium's family circle is nearly complete, with all three massive American Bison and Team Legends statues installed. Markers are being put up for the walking trail for visitors to navigate the area around the new stadium. Significant pieces of the old stadium have come down, including the light standards and as the building becomes closer to full demolition. The transportation hub, which centralizes pickup and drop-off for public transit, is being built across the street from the new stadium's main entrance. The team is redoing the Bills team store parking lot to make it larger and more accessible for fans. And dirt is coming by the truckload from the former SUNY Erie Community College South Campus to use as fill for where the old stadium once sat far underground. All this is going on in anticipation of the $2.2 billion stadium hosting its first big event less than a month from now. It will be that way for at least the next 3 to 4 weeks. There's just a lot going on all over the place and different types of activities, said John Polka, Vice President of Stadium Development for the Bills. Much of the work is targeted for completion by the return of the Blue and Red practice August 8th, which will likely bring close to a capacity crowd to the more than 60,000-seat building. Any of the leftover work should get done over the next 2 months as the team prepares for 2 preseason games and another open practice in August, and the Bills' regular season opener September 17. Things that aren't done by the Red and Blue will just continue to knock off the list after that, leading up to the homeowner, Pokel said. A significant portion of the old stadium is expected to be down before that September 17th Thursday night football game against the Detroit Lions. The entire demolition project is slated to be done by March. Some large pieces of the stadium have come down, including the light towers, which used to be visible to travelers from roads such as Route 219, and the large restroom towers that featured Bills logos. Less than 3 months after the demolition began, the team is getting closer to taking down the upper decks on each side of the stadium, which are some of the few larger stadium pieces left standing. Once a portion of the building is taken down, time is needed to sort through the metal and concrete to make sure that it is all pulled out. It will definitely change the landscape over there when the upper decks start coming down. They'll be the last iconic piece of the old stadium. Mountains of fill have been transported by dump trucks from the former SUNY Erie South campus, where dirt from the excavation for the new stadium was being stored, to the old stadium to help fill in the hole and bring the land close to ground level. The transportation hub is now well under construction, with additional site work underway to improve the flow of traffic around that area on the east side of Abbott Road. It is part of a collaboration between the team and Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority to provide a hub that will serve as a central location on the stadium campus for the drop-off and pickup of fans and stadium workers via buses and other forms of public transportation. It includes shuttle bays that allow for the staging of 10 buses, a 720 square foot enclosed structure with enough space for 100 people, and a 3,150 square foot canopy providing cover for up to 450 people. The plan is also for glass partitions along Abbott Road that provide shelter from winds and benches for riders to sit on throughout the location. Buses will circulate through an entrance to the north toward Southwestern Boulevard. The exit and fan walkway are to the south of the structure and lead to Family Circle across the street. The game day shuttles are going to drop people off at an excellent location there, Polka said. As part of that effort, the team is also redesigning the Bills team store parking lot because the lot was never big enough for all the traffic the store experiences. The new design will feature more parking spaces and a more seamless experience to get in and out of the area. Family Circle's herd is now in place. The 3 massive bisons start with a 9-foot tall calf set in between a 19-foot high cow and a bull that is 27 feet tall. The statues together weigh 23,000 pounds. The team is working on their lighting and smoke control for when the bison light up and billow smoke from their noses. Team legend plaques are up around the circle, as well as plenty of landscaping to make the area attractive to guests. The plaza will be as big as the field inside Highmark Stadium, giving it a significant footprint, and it is expected to be a major attraction for visitors. Polka said the installation of bison went smoothly, but transporting them created some challenges because of their size and weight, but they have quickly become a social media magnet. Finishing touches are also going in for the Highmark Trail, which will be 1.7 miles long and loop around the campus. Markers set around the set path are going up to create park-like trail for visitors to walk through different activations, Polka said. One of the activations is a musical rush, an interactive walkway that features Bills-related audio and sound bites from a game broadcast or a signature song. Highmark, the stadium's namesake, had the idea for the trail to help get people out and active. It also is an opportunity for visitors to have some fun while checking out the area around the new stadium. People are generally creatures of habit, and on game day, they may be focused on their parking lot, their gate, and their entry. But if you come here on a non-game day, you can walk it and see the different areas. Inside the stadium, the final tasks are getting done, as well as installing signature branding, sponsorship signage, and art and design elements in the finished areas of the suites and clubs and concourses. Some of those couldn't be done during the construction and are being finished now. On Tuesday, the Bills held a soft event with some Suite and Founders Club members. It is the first of a few soft events planned for this month. Others include food tastings and training for game day, internal staff, and vendors. New Podium concessionaire Legends is still looking for about 200 more hospitality workers and held a job fair Friday at Kaleida Health Sports Performance Center.
Trump's golf course plan in D.C. follows a familiar script. Whenever President Trump gets an idea for a major project or renovation in Washington, a pattern has emerged. Move forward and ask questions later. Public sagas over Trump's proposed Triumphal Arch, the East Wing Ballroom construction, and the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool renovation have followed his playbook, provoking outcry and legal challenges. Now, the greenways of human-made peninsula south of the National Mall is next on Trump's quest to remake the nation's capital in his style, and they're poised to be made over in a way that's par for the course for this president. The administration is on track to push ahead with turning the 300-acre East Potomac Park and its public golf course into a championship course without getting approvals from 2 key agencies that have oversight of D.C. public spaces. Neither the National Capital Planning Commission nor the Commission on Fine Arts have received any golf course plans from the Trump administration to review officials of both have said. Neither agency meets in August, and the ground is supposed to be broken by the start of September. And based on what has been publicly reported, a project of this complexity and ambition would typically require months of regulatory reviews to examine environmental impact, questions over historical preservation, planning, and design, the officials at each agency have said. On Friday, the administration provided a federal judge overseeing the legal challenge to the project with new information about the venture. It included the disclosure that the government did not finish testing soil from the demolition of the East Weag that was deposited onto the golf course before deeming that it was safe. The revelation opens the door to allowing plaintiffs to question administration officials under oath. The D.C. Preservation League and two local golfers are pressing U.S. District Judge Anna Rise to an order that would bar Trump administration from moving ahead. Critics worry that proper approvals and legal battles have hardly handicapped the president before. There's really this ability to ignore regulatory guardrails, rules, and protocols that have existed in the past. And we just see it again and again on this golf course, sadly, as another example of that. Trump announced last month on Truth Social that renovations to East Potomac Links will start September 1st. The Interior Department, which oversees the project, as on its National Park Service land, did not answer CNN's questions as to when they will seek approval or if they even will.
Deal to let Saudis enrich uranium awaits Trump administration's okay. The Trump administration has tentatively agreed to allow Saudi Arabia to enrich uranium without enacting international safeguards intended to prevent nuclear weapons development, according to sources familiar with the matter and documents reviewed by CNN. The draft nuclear accord that outlines U.S. support for Riyadh's civilian nuclear program is awaiting President Trump's signature, despite U.S.-Saudi negotiations concluding last October. Two sources familiar with the matter indicated that the ongoing war with Iran, which according to Trump was launched in part to prevent Tehran from using its enriched uranium to build nuclear weapons, has played a role in delaying Trump's signature. Some on Capitol Hill also believe the Trump administration is delaying sign-off because it could face a bipartisan disapproval resolution blocking the deals from going into effect, said one of the sources. Experts said the deal could potentially provide Saudi Arabia with a path to nuclear weapons unless stringent safeguards are put in place. The country's crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, has previously threatened to build his own nuclear weapons should Iran, his country's principal regional rival, acquire the bomb. Four sources said the agreement, which includes a civil nuclear cooperation deal known as a 123 agreement and a mandatory nuclear safeguards agreement, still have not been sent to Congress for review, as federal law requires the White House to do once signed. The White House did not answer questions regarding the agreements and instead referred CNN to a statement in October from Energy Secretary Chris Wright announcing the end of negotiations. "We've come together on a deal for civil nuclear cooperation," Wright said at the time. "Together with bilateral safeguard agreements, we want to grow our partnership, bring American nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia, and keep a firm commitment to nonproliferation." The Saudi Arabian embassy in Washington did not respond to a request for comment. The Trump administration briefed some on Capitol Hill on the basic outlines of the Saudi nuclear accords earlier this year, and even then it was previewed as having a special arrangement allowing for a degree of domestic uranium enrichment and/or plutonium reprocessing, according to a source familiar with the matter. The source said that would be unprecedented for such a deal. The uranium enrichment provision includes stipulations imposed by the U.S., two sources told CNN, but details of potential limitations are unclear. The 123 agreement also will not provide the final word on whether Saudi Arabia gets sensitive technology and material. The agreement is a baseline legal framework for U.S. companies or the government to transfer nuclear material and technology to the recipient country's civilian nuclear program. Those transfers are subject to additional review. Uranium enrichment and plutonium reprocessing are the two main pathways to create the core material necessary to build nuclear weapons. Most countries whose civilian nuclear reactors require enriched uranium don't produce it domestically. They purchase the material from vendors like the U.S. or Russia and receive it in sealed shipments under strict international supervision.
Federal judge demands proof of alligator Alcatraz closure. Governor Ron DeSantis may have announced that the so-called alligator Alcatraz is closed and the tents are gone, but that's not enough for civil rights lawyers or a Florida federal judge. Lawyers for the American Civil Liberties Union Foundation want the state and feds to confirm in federal court that the controversial immigration detention center hastily erected in the Everglades has permanently closed and will not reopen. On Thursday, a federal judge sided with the Civil Liberties Group. District Judge Sherry Polster Chappell denied the state and federal government's request to pause all future proceedings in a lawsuit brought on behalf of immigrants who were held at Alligator Alcatraz, saying the center had been closed. At this juncture, beyond counsel's briefs, the court has seen no evidence from the state or federal official with authority to declare Alligator Alcatraz permanently closed, Polster Chappell wrote in the order. The judge, serving in the Middle District of Florida, ordered state and federal officials within 4 days to present such evidence or a timeline for when they expect to do so.
We usually have a death listings reading, but today, I suppose I could say fortunately, there are no death listings. So we will go on to our horoscope reading. This is the Royal Stars. Happy birthday for Monday, July 20th, 2026. This is a year of new beginnings, adventures, and major changes in your life. Keep your eyes open for new opportunities and be ready to take the initiative. The stars show the kind of day you'll have, either dynamic, positive, average, so-so, or difficult. And it looks like everybody has either a positive day or an average day today.
Good news.
Yes. Aries, average day. Be patient with others today. You will attract strong people to you. Discussions with partners, spouses, and close friends will be lively. Tonight, listen and cooperate. Taurus, positive day. You will feel generous to family members, and likewise, they might be generous to you. Nevertheless, avoid confrontation with parents and authority figures. Tonight, get better organized. Gemini, positive day. Interactions with kids will be lively. You might be attracted to competitive sports. You also might find yourself in a power struggle with a sibling or in a discussion about politics or religion that is a tad confrontational. Tonight, socialize. Cancer, an average day. Family discussions about money might be a tad aggressive, especially because someone behind the scenes seems to be steering the show. If you suspect this, walk away. Tonight, relax at home. Leo, positive day. Issues with those who are closest to you might be challenging today. Things might come down to a power struggle or a challenge of egos. Tonight, a lively discussion. Virgo, positive day. You're willing to work hard for your money today, which is why you might spend it just as fast. In part, this is because travel and exciting adventures are appealing right now. Tonight, check your money. Libra, positive day. You might get into a little argument with someone. Your charitable involvement with friends or groups will be appreciated. Tonight, you win. Scorpio, average day. Avoid power struggles with parents, bosses, and people in authority, including the police. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, research will pay off in discussions about shared property, inheritances, taxes, and debt. Tonight, enjoy privacy. Sagittarius, an average day. A discussion with a friend or a group member will be lively today. It could relate to your desire to help children in need. Tonight, be friendly. Capricorn, also an average day. Power struggles about money and possessions might take place today. You have the best interests of family at heart. Tonight, you're noticed by others. Aquarius, average day. Be careful of the ruthless desire to get ahead today, which might tempt you to coerce others into doing what you want. In fact, proceed with caution. Tonight, explore and learn. And Pisces, a positive day. Don't be too pushy at work today, especially if you're trying to introduce improvements. Co-workers might be generous to each other today. Tonight, check your finances.
Now we take a look back at what has happened on July 20th throughout history. In 1881, Hunkpapa Lakota Sioux leader Sitting Bull surrendered to the U.S. Army at Fort Buford, Dakota Territory, in exchange for amnesty for himself and his people 5 years after the death of Lieutenant Colonel George Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn. In 1934, a labor strike turned violent as police in Minneapolis, Minnesota, fired upon striking truck drivers, killing 2 and wounding 67. In 1944, Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg attempted to assassinate Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, but failed as a briefcase bomb injured but did not kill the dictator. Now known as the July Plot, it was an attempt by high-ranking German dissidents who believed Hitler was leading Germany into a suicidal war. 1968, over 1,000 athletes from the United States and Canada participated in the world's first Special Olympics at Soldier Field in Chicago. In 1969, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edward Buzz Aldrin became the first humans to step foot on the moon. 1973, actor and martial arts expert Bruce Lee died at age 32 from a cerebral edema in Hong Kong. And in 2012, a dozen people were killed and 70 others injured when James Holmes fired into a crowded movie theater in Aurora, Colorado during a midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises. You are listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for Monday, July 20th on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. We'll return for some more readings after this short break. Your readers today are
Ruth Nowotniak
and Ted Pajacki.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
still do that. We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Ted Pajacki.
and Ruth Nowotniak, and we'll go to our local news. Buffalo Medical looking for a new chief executive. One of the longest tenured chief executives in Western New York healthcare is preparing to call it a career. Buffalo Medical Group in recent days announced that its CEO Daniel Scully will begin transitioning toward retirement after more than 31 years with the organization. That transition is scheduled to occur over the coming months and into early 2027. The group's board of directors has launched a search and selection process to find Buffalo Medical Group's next CEO. Scully, who joined Buffalo Medical Group as CEO in 1995, will work closely with the organization's board, physician shareholders, and leadership team to ensure continuity and a seamless leadership handoff. Serving as CEO of Buffalo Medical Group has been one of the greatest privileges of my career, he said. Together we have achieved remarkable successes, navigated challenges, and built an organization of which I am tremendously proud. Buffalo Medical Group is one of the region's largest physician-led multi-specialty medical groups with several area locations. The organization, which has over 1,000 employees, more than 5 years ago entered into a joint venture with Agilon Health, a publicly traded company in Ohio that partners with physician groups and helps them scale in the transition to a value-based total care model for senior patients. Through the joint venture, Buffalo Medical Group is engaged in full-risk Medicare contracts. That means, rather than a fee-for-service arrangement, the joint venture takes responsibility for the total cost of care for its Medicare patients. While that comes with risk if costs go high, it also comes with savings if patients stay healthy and expensive hospital trips are avoided. With Scully, Buffalo Medical Group has also continued to expand its footprint in Western New York. For instance, in the early 2024, the organization opened a 19,000 square foot location on the first floor of the old First Niagara Financial Group administrative headquarters in the town of Pendleton. Other recent developments include the announcement early this year of a strategic partnership between Catholic Health and Buffalo Medical Group for oncology, hematology, and infusion services. In that deal, Buffalo Medical Group cancer doctors will work under Catholic Health affiliate Trinity Medical, and the combined oncology, hematology, and infusion services will be marketed through Catholic Health. Buffalo Medical Group is exceptionally well positioned for continued success. In its search for Scully's successor, Buffalo Medical Group said its board is focused on selecting a leader who will build upon BMG's strong foundation, honor its legacy, and guide the organization through its next chapter of growth and innovation. As that process plays out, Scully will support strategic priorities, organizational continuity, and leadership succession efforts.
And work begins on $54 million project to strengthen the South Grand Island bridges. Work has begun on a $54 million project to strengthen the South Grand Island bridges and make sure the spans can better withstand a severe earthquake. Construction is expected to continue through late 2028, but motorists who use the bridges that connect Grand Island with the town of Tonawanda should see little effect on traffic, officials said in Friday's announcement. The work is meant to fortify structural elements on the bridges against seismic events, ground motion, and soil failure. Crews will also treat the deck surfaces of the spans to improve driving conditions, especially when the roadway is wet. Additional repairs will allow access to the sidewalk on the southbound bridge to pedestrians and cyclists and bolster safety for workers whose job it is to maintain the bridges. The South Grand Island bridges are a vital transportation link for Western New York, carrying thousands of motorists and commercial vehicles every day, Frank Hoare, executive director of the State Thruway Authority, said in a statement. This project reflects another important investment in preserving the safety, reliability, and long-term resilience of those iconic bridges. The Thruway Authority in 2024 received a $39 million federal grant that will cover about 70% of the cost of the work on the bridges. The money came from the Department of Transportation and was awarded as part of the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Jobs Act of 2021. Age and deterioration have taken a toll on many sections of the bridge, and this federal funding will bolster infrastructure resilience while creating good-paying construction jobs. The South Grand Island bridges, along with the spans in the northern end of the island that link it to Niagara Falls, connect Grand Island to the mainland. The South Grand Island bridges are twin truss arch bridges that span the stretch over the Niagara River. One carries the I-190 northbound and the other carries the I-190 southbound. The southbound bridge opened in 1935 and the northbound bridge was opened in 1963. More than 68,000 vehicles cross the bridge each day, keeping the New Yorkers safe, marking smart investments in the infrastructure that connects our communities and drives our community are important, Governor Kathy Hochul said. Preparation work took place on the South Grand Island bridges in recent weeks. The first order of structural steel and bolts arrived within the past week, and the authority spokesperson Kelly Holland told the news work will begin now on under the bridges. That is where most of the work will take place, Holland said, limiting any impact on traffic flow to the bridge, which get heavy use during the morning and evening rush hours. When any deck work needs to be done, there could be a lane closure or delays, but there is no work on the decks planned at this time. Similar work on the north bridges began in 2023 and is expected to wrap up this summer.
Western New York senators ask Hochul to opt into federal tax credit scholarship program. 7 Republican senators, including 3 from Western New York, are urging Governor Kathy Hochul to opt into a federal program that would allow New Yorkers to receive tax credits for contributions to scholarship organizations that help pay expenses for students from kindergarten through 12th grade. Contributors to eligible scholarship organizations could reap up to $1,700 in dollar-for-dollar tax savings under the program enacted under President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill last year. Senate Minority Leader Robert Ort from North Tonawanda and Senators Patrick Gallivan from Elma and George Barillo from Sunset Bay signed their names to a letter to Hochul asking the Democratic governor to make New York the 27th state to welcome the plan. The organizations could use the money to pay for expenses such as tuition, tutoring, and after-school programs, the senators said. They said the program requires the organizations to start planning as soon as possible. Without joining the program, they said, New Yorkers would be contributing to programs in other states without benefiting their own families. If New York has any specific concerns that are not addressed in this preview, it should raise those concerns now, the letter stated. A failure to engage in the process indicates a lack of commitment. This scholarship program is not only cost-free to the state, but provides educational opportunities combined with huge affordability benefits for New York families. New York's execution of the advanced election does not create any financial liability, whereas failure to move forward with the scholarship program leaves millions of federal dollars on the table. The letter added, "We hope that the timing of this decision is not being influenced by political considerations when the interests of New York students and families should remain paramount." Hochul intends to opt into the program, according to a person with knowledge of the governor's plans. Governor Hochul is supportive of the federal tax credit scholarship and its potential to help New York students in schools, a spokesperson for her said. Our office awaits information from the federal government on the program and will thoroughly review the details of the policy for poison pills that could harm New York's education system. Also signing the letters were Senators Stephen Chan from Brooklyn, Pete Oberacker from Scavenius, Jack Martins from Mineola, and Bill Weber, a Rockland County Republican.
Kaleida renames Pennsylvania campus after service closures. The Bradford Regional Medical Center campus in Pennsylvania has been renamed Bradford Medical Park. The name change reflects the campus's transition into an outpatient healthcare center, said Buffalo-based Kaleida Health, which includes Bradford Medical Park and sister site Olean General Hospital under its umbrella. Our community has trusted this campus with its health care for more than a century, Olean General Hospital President Bradley J. Chapman said in a statement. While healthcare delivery has evolved, our commitment to Bradford has never changed. Bradford Medical Park reflects who we are today while honoring the caregivers, providers, and patients who have made this campus such an important part of the community. It's just the latest change for the Bradford community. Kaleida, in mid-February, announced it would close Bradford's regional inpatient, emergency, and long-term care services by mid-year and shift the campus into an outpatient care center. That move fit into a $200 million system-wide improvement plan that Kaleida launched last year. Kaleida has said that Bradford Regional, operating in an area with a declining population, had lost an average of $10.1 million each year since 2021. Inpatient and emergency services closed in mid-May, affecting more than 200 employees, according to a notice on the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industries website. The site's 95-bed skilled nursing facility, the Pavilion, is expected to stay open through an agreement with Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. Kaleida said the Bradford Memorial Park name recognizes the services available at the site today, mostly primary and specialty care. Outpatient services being offered in Bradford include primary care, pediatrics, women's health, cardiology, orthopedics, and sports medicine, general surgery, urology, medical oncology for new patient consultations, pain management, and physical medicine rehabilitation, laboratory blood draw, cardiac and pulmonary rehabilitation, and occupational health services. The name change is similar to the one Kaleida made several years ago related to service changes at the then-named DeGraff Memorial Hospital in North Tonawanda, which was renamed DeGraff Medical Park. Unlike Bradford Medical Park, though, DeGraff Medical Park still has an emergency center with 15 private patient rooms. Olean General Hospital, which still has a 24/7 emergency department, is about 20 miles or a half-hour drive from Bradford. Kaleida patients in Olean and Bradford also recently gained access to Epic, which is Kaleida's new electronic health record that the system hopes will better connect providers across the network. Bradford Medical Park is more than a new name, Chapman said. It represents our commitment to maintaining and growing outpatient healthcare services for this community. Every patient who chooses local care helps support the dedicated professionals who care for their friends, neighbors, and families while helping to sustain healthcare access close to home.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is approximately 14 minutes past the hour, and we will now go to our sports pages. The first article, Wonder of the World. Lone goal in extra time leads Spain past Argentina for second cup title. Substitute Ferran Torres scored in the 106th minute to lift Spain to its second World Cup title with a 1-0 win over gutsy 10-man Argentina in Sunday's final. Torres' deserved winner came 16 years and 8 days after Andres Iniesta also scored in extra time to lift the Spaniards to their first World Cup title in 2010 with a 1-0 victory over the Netherlands. It came on Leroy's 20th shot of the contest against the defending champions, who failed to manage any to that point and struggled to wrest possession away from its superior Iberian opponents. That was true at even strength and became more difficult when the Albicelestes' numbers were reduced when Enzo Fernandez's late challenge of Pau Kubarasi left referee Slavko Vincic no choice but to produce a second caution just before the end of the normal time, and I apologize for just bastardizing these people's names. Spain remains the only nation ever to win the European Championship and World Cup in successive tournaments, having now done so a second time. Spain is also the first World Cup champion ever to concede only once across an entire tournament. Spain's coach lavished praise on his players after the victory established them as the dominant team in international football. De La Fuente, who at 65 became the oldest coach to guide the team to a World Cup triumph, led Spain to the Euro 2024 title, and his team is now unbeaten in 38 matches in all competitions, a record for any team from Europe or South America. Lionel Messi's Argentina, I just zipped through here. Excuse me. Lionel Messi's Argentina failed to earn a title for the first time in 3 major tournaments, having also captured the 2021 and 2024 Copa Americas on either side of their 2022 World Cup triumph. The 39-year-old 8-time Ballon d'Or winner, Messi, finished the competition with 8 goals and 4 assists, but had little time on the ball until Spain finally took the lead and never seriously looked like lifting his side to another great moment, as he has so many times in the last 2 World Cup cycles. Emi Martinez made 11 saves, who fell short in their bid to be the first consecutive World Cup champions since Brazil won the 1958 and 1962 titles. The match should have been decided much earlier, but this is a World Cup final, and you have to dig deep even against 10 men, and we're prepared for anything, Del Fuente added. What had felt so difficult for the first 105 minutes suddenly looked easy after 37 seconds of play in the second period of extra time. Pedro Porro curled in an outswing crossed from the left to the back post. Nico Williams won the header and nodded it back into space, and Torres hammered a half volley at last past the flailing Martinez. It was his only goal of the tournament, making him the 7th player to score during a tournament in which his side never trailed. Lamine Yamal, considered by many to be a player who might one day rival Messi's achievements, nearly wrapped up the title for Spain at the end of normal time when he curled a free kick over the wall, only for Martinez to produce another of the many saves he made throughout the match. The Argentinian goalkeeper produced an even better stop to deny the close-range header from Williams early in the first period of extra time, and although he was finally beaten by the winger 3 minutes later, the referee scratched the goal off for a foul in the lead-up. President Donald Trump was in attendance for the World Cup final between Argentina and Spain, where he was received with boos during the post-game trophy presentation ceremony. Trump walked onto the field to present the World Cup trophy to winners Spain alongside FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Following the match, the crowd booed both men. The boos had stopped when Trump and Infantino presented the players and coaches with their medals. A brief brawl erupted at the final whistle of the World Cup final when Argentina midfielder Leandro Paredes shoved Spain's Gava to the ground as the European champion substitutes rushed into the pitch to celebrate their win. Ted?
With a birdie spree, Fox trots to first major title. Ryan Fox of New Zealand rolled in a 10-foot birdie putt on the 72nd hole to win the 154th Open Championship by 1 stroke over Cam Young on Sunday. Fox, who is 39, is the son of a legendary All Blacks rugby player and shot a 2 under 68 at the Royal Birkdale Golf Club to claim his first major championship trophy and the title of Champion Golfer of the Year. It's something I've always dreamed of, but it's not something I ever thought was really possible. But we're here now, he said. Fox tied the course record and equaled the lowest 18-hole score in men's major championship history and 8 under 62 on Saturday to climb into contention. On Sunday, he fell down to 7 under with a bogey at number 11, but he battled back with 4 birdies in his final 6 holes down the closing stretch. He topped it off with a tee shot into the fairway at the difficult 18th and knocked an 8-iron on for the winning putt. Young rallied from 7 strokes back at the start of the day to shoot 6 under 64, and he was a clubhouse leader as the competitor after competitor fell by the wayside down the stretch, except for one. Young, who won the Players' Championship in March, was seeking his first major championship title also, and joined the trophy hunt after a blistering start of 3 birdies in a row on the front 9, 29. Sam Burns, the 54-hole leader, made 3 straight bogeys on the front 9 starting at the 4th and never regained the lead. He birdied the second, the only player to reach 11 under, but failed to make another birdie. He settled for third. Siwoo Kim made birdies at numbers 5 and 6 to get to 10 under and held the lead at the turn until he made back-to-back bogeys at numbers 11 and 12, and another then at 16, and dropped to a tie for 6th. Nearly 2 hours after finishing his round, Young returned to the practice putting green to prepare for a possible playoff. World's number 1 Scottie Scheffler made a valiant effort to retain the title for the first time since Patrick Harrington had in 2008. He birdied 16 and 17 to climb within 1, but his birdie putt from off the green at 18 scooted past the hole, and he made bogey for 67 and tied for 4th with Englishman Tommy Fleetwood. Bryson DeChambeau, who was penalized 2 strokes on Friday, never got untracked and closed in 2 over 72 and finished tied for 14th. He declined to speak to the media for the 4th straight day. Young reached 10 under for the championship with his 7th birdie of the day at the par 5 17th to reach 10 under. He gambled at 18 with the driver off the tee at the hardest hole on the course, and he found a pot bunker. Driver is aggressive there, but the only option to take out all the bunkers is to leave yourself like 265 in, which didn't feel that smart to me either. I just figured, go ahead and try and hit a good one, he said. He opened the face on a 6-iron and caught the face of the bunker. The ball ricocheted sideways. I felt like I had a chance to get the second one on the green, Young explained. It felt worth the risk. His third trickled into a greenside pot bunker where he nearly holed it out, but he salvaged a bogey and a 64. Fox, who had never had a top 15 in 29 appearances in the majors, missed from 10 feet for a birdie at 17. He gambled on 18 too, telling his caddy he'd live with the consequences. Well, it paid big dividends, and he made the putt that mattered most at 18 for a 72-hole total of 10 under 270 and became the 3rd Kiwi to win a major, joining Bob Charles and Michael Campbell.
Eagles running back Barclay and family okay in theft attempt. Philadelphia Eagles star running back Saquon Barkley and his family were the victims of an attempted burglary of their suburban Philadelphia home early Saturday morning, according to the Tridifin Township Police Department. Barkley and his family were unharmed in the incident, which occurred around 5 a.m. Officers were dispatched to Barkley's home to a burglary in progress call, according to Captain Tyler Meyer. When the officers arrived, the alleged suspects had already fled the scene. At least one of the suspects was inside the house when Barkley and his family were home. Police are looking for at least 2 suspects and released a photo of a white SUV they believe is connected to the alleged crime. They were home, and fortunately, as you know, with any situation like this, our main concern is that the residents of that home at the time were unharmed, which they were. Chester County, PA detectives are assisting the Tridifin Township PD on the case, according to the Chester County District Attorney's Office. With several professional athletes targeted for thefts in recent months, the Township PD will contact federal authorities to determine if there is a connection involving Barclay's home. We will look at all angles of this because we know, obviously, it's been all over the news in the past few years about different professional athletes' homes getting burglarized. With 50 days left until the Wisconsin Badgers and Notre Dame Fighting Irish knock helmets at Lambeau Field on Labor Day weekend, the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame Museum launched an exhibit that ties those schools together with the Packers in multiple ways. The temporary exhibit, 6 Degrees of Curly Lambeau, looks at Lambeau's connections to both Notre Dame and Wisconsin. The exhibit explores his 1918 season playing at Notre Dame, as well as his relationship with Wisconsin and the multiple Badgers he recruited to play for the Packers. The exhibit includes stories, rare photos, original letters and documents, and more. It opened on Saturday and will remain until the summer of 2027, and an even more temporary exhibit will be at the Hall of Fame from September 2 to 7 around the Notre Dame, Wisconsin game. That exhibit will include some of the best artifacts from the Wisconsin and Notre Dame collections. Lambeau's connection with Wisconsin was that he personally had no connection, although it was often said that he was briefly on the Badgers' freshman football team. Apparently, Lambeau went to Madison one weekend before the football season, but neither attended the school nor joined the football team. He did play one semester for Coach Knute Rockne's Notre Dame team, from which he learned much that would contribute to his success with the Packers. He gave Knute Rockne a lot of credit for what he learned there, and understandably so, and he ran the Notre Dame box offense through 1946 and had great success with it, which was Rockne's offense, said Packers historian Cliff Christal. There's a Lambeau connection at Notre Dame, which nobody's ever gotten right. He was only there for 3 months, a little more, and dropped out of school, Christal said. But most of the other stories about that connection and his connection with the University of Wisconsin are completely false.
Well, you know, Ruth, I'm afraid our listeners might think that the sports news today is for the birds. Because I just read about golf and birdies, you read about the Eagles, and now in Major League Baseball, the Blue Jays,
Oh, there you go.
Bieber cooled off the White Sox.
There you go.
What's going on here? Shane Bieber pitched 6 strong innings Saturday afternoon, and the Toronto Blue Jays defeated the visiting Chicago White Sox 1-0. Bieber, who's 1-1, allowed 3 hits and 2 walks with 6 strikeouts in his 5th start of the season. George Springer's RBI single in the 4th against Davis Martin was the difference in the game. And the Mets' woes versus the Phillies continues. Trea Turner had a home run among his 3 hits and scored 3 runs as the Philadelphia Phillies beat the visiting New York Mets 6-1 on Saturday night in the middle game of a 3-game series between the National League East rivals. Kyle Schwarber gave the Phillies a lead they'd never relinquish with a 2-run homer in the first inning as Philadelphia avoided dropping 2 in a row for the first time since July 5th and 6th, and what would have been just the second time since June 17th and 18th. And in New York, rain postponed the game. The game between the Los Angeles Dodgers and New York Yankees was postponed due to heavy rain on Saturday. The teams were scheduled to play a split doubleheader on Sunday. And finally, the stat of the day, 500. The Red Sox are the first team since 1999 to go from being at least 10 games under 500 to 500 without losing a single game. Boston was 37-48 on July 1st before sweeping a doubleheader on Friday for their 10th and 11th straight victory. And over to you, no birds allowed.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is approximately 30 minutes past the hour. And now we're going to see what advice Eric Thomas is dispensing with his letters. Significant other keeps tracking dirt into house. Dear Eric, my family has always left shoes at the door, except for occasional circumstances like parties, etc. Those who prefer wearing shoes have shoes that they only wear indoors. My significant other does not really understand this concept. He makes numerous trips to the garage and outdoors and wears those gritty shoes in the house. I tend to go barefoot often, and I can feel the grit on the hardwood floors, even when I vacuum them often. Am I being unreasonable? Signed, Shoes Off. Dear Shoes Off, nope. But it seems you've decided that you have a shoes off house and your significant other may not have signed up for that. So it may be helpful to agree to disagree and go back to having a classic conversation about how you can live together. You both know where the other person is coming from, which is good, even if he doesn't understand the concept. Now, for a moment, wipe the slate clean and talk about how you want to do things here and now. This may make for a more productive conversation because it's less about how you've always done things and more about the household you're building together. Start simple. You are barefoot a lot, and you don't like to feel outside grit inside. Present it simply and ask him, what can we do so that both of us are comfortable? It may be as simple as him getting in the habit of switching to house shoes, him taking on more of the vacuuming and mopping, or him depositing his outdoor shoes in a vestibule. He, in turn, may have a request for you. Maybe he'll suggest that you wear house shoes instead of being barefoot, which would at least keep the grit away from your feet. As with every part of a relationship, this situation is about give and take. No one is right or wrong, per se. It's just about coming to an agreement about how you want to live together. No birds in their house, I guess, huh, Ted?
Yeah.
Next letter. Dear Eric, my mom has always suffered from mental health challenges. She's coped in life by using other people to take care of her in many different ways. She was unavailable to parent me other than meeting basic physical needs. She was never abusive, but she never helped me grow into a functional adult. I spent my early and mid-adulthood doing that for myself, with a lot of therapy and my own destructive path to account for. I'm in a good place now, in my mid-60s, though I have my own mental health challenges. My mom is in her late 80s and overwhelmed by trying to care for herself. She refuses assisted living. She has a good income from a pension that will last her entire life, but her poor spending habits have left her in a precarious financial position. I won't spend my own limited savings to bail her out. I don't want to resolve anything with her anymore. I want to limit my involvement with her as much as possible. I assist her in making choices about how she can arrange care for herself, but I no longer offer to be involved in her care. I'm considering asking for an evaluation to have her be appointed a guardian by the court, although I think she would be judged capable of making her own care decisions. I know that I have to prioritize my own well-being, and I also know that I'm failing her. It's an impossible place to be. Wondering if you have any comments. Difficult position. Dear position, it sounds like you're doing the hard but necessary work of holding a boundary to protect yourself. To not do so would risk both of you being overwhelmed, possibly to the detriment of your mother's care and your own mental well-being. It also sounds like, given your history, you may not be the best person to assist in some cases. You may want to intercede despite the trauma you've experienced, but it may be better for your mother if you let professionals who don't have as much emotional entanglement step in. Have a conversation with her about the needs she's expressing or that you're seeing, and guide her to others who can assist, whether that's a senior manager, a social worker, an in-home aide, or someone else. Your local Department of Aging will have resources. Her doctor may as well. It's key that you're honest with her. This is more than I can handle. We have to acknowledge the reality of what's needed. What do you want to do? If she can be an active participant in her own decision-making, she should be. This may go against her nature, but that's not a problem you can or should solve. Help is available. She has to want it.
Our next story is a nice human interest story entitled Fruitful Endeavor. And it's a story about how a woman has found success making lifelike candles in homage to her family. They look like real fruits and vegetables. There's playfully elegant Bosc pears, puckered mandarins, green and purple asparagus taper candles, which range in price from $12 to $40. Some are molded into corn on the cob, celery, and rhubarb shapes. Others look like mushrooms, figs, tomatoes, and snap peas. The most popular are the small birthday candles, shaped like raspberries, cherries, and blackberries, packed in molded pulp baskets, just like you'd find at a grocery store or a farmer's market. Jessica Gonzalez Happy Organics Beeswax Candle Collection is an homage to her family's Central Valley, California produce company. Judging by the smiles and charmed looks on the shoppers' faces, her candles are less about illuminating rooms and more about sharing the joy she sought when she first started this company in 2018. I love doing in-person events because it's so fun to see people's reactions, the 35-year-old said. It makes me feel good to see other people finding joy in my candles. They often say, "Oh, that's really funny." And it is funny to have a cherry candle on top of your birthday cake. Gonzalez didn't start out as a designer. The youngest of 9 children, she was born in 1991 in Salinas, California, and later moved to Merced, where she grew up on a 10-acre farm. She studied computer science at Mills College in Oakland, then worked in tech consulting in the Bay Area, and eventually became the chief technology officer of an ag tech company. When her mother, Angela, became ill in 2016, Gonzalez returned to Merced to be with her family. Her mom died suddenly soon after she moved home, and Gonzalez left the tech industry. I wanted to find something more meaningful, something I love, she said. I didn't want my ego to keep me stuck in what I had studied in college. I decided to let myself try new hobbies and passions, looking for joy again. She began working with her father, Salvador, and her uncles at the family's apiary, where they managed more than 30 hives. Her grandfather was also a beekeeper in Michoacan, Mexico. Soon, she began selling their raw honey at local farmers' markets. Her father was diagnosed with cancer a year later, so she started making cannabis-infused honey, balms, and chocolates to help ease his pain. When she saw that the beeswax candles, which last significantly longer than paraffin candles, sold faster than the honey, she decided to focus on making candles from the leftovers from her uncle's hives. She was only 25, but it was a turning point. It was one of those moments where I felt like I needed to change my path, she said. I needed to change everything in my life. When her father died in 2018, she inherited his bees and started Happy Organics, though she hadn't planned on starting a business. After experiencing so much loss, making candles became kind of a therapy. It felt great to work with my hands again, something I thought I'd never have time for, she said. Her oldest sister, Sonia, said Gonzalez reminds her a lot of her father, who reinvented himself many times over the years. He grew up as a village boy in the rural mountains of Mexico and went to work in restaurants, cut down Christmas trees, and picked strawberries and broccoli in the fields of Salinas, she wrote in an email. From there, he started selling produce door to door, then at flea markets, and eventually built his own produce distribution business from the ground up. As the youngest of 9 kids from the working class family, Jessica has always been incredibly resourceful, responsible, and amazing at reinventing herself. Like a lot of millennials, Gonzalez taught herself how to make candles by watching YouTube videos. She started with hand-dipped tapers, working in a garage on the farm that helped her feel safe and connected to her parents. It was really a nice environment to try something new and creative, she said. Inspired by her family's produce, she cast real corn, strawberries, and cherries in plaster, then made a silicone mold. Even when using the same mold, color can vary from batch to batch, and how it cools also affects the results. That's just how handmade things are, she said. There's always some variation.
And another art-related article, Art with a Mission. And it's not coming. Sorry, hang on a minute. We're reading from the computer and never mind. Art with a Mission. To find adoptive parents, Florida foster kids embrace their creativity. This is from Tampa Bay Times. The kids gathered in the gallery at Florida Craft Art, trailed by their therapists and foster parents. After checking out glowing glass rods and painted teapots, they headed upstairs to make their own art. A teenage girl looked bored. She'd been to this St. Petersburg studio 2 years ago. Now, her guardian said, she needed to update her picture. The youngest boy wrapped his arms around his foster mom's knees. We do art because it represents ourselves, instructor Violet Hastings, 22, told them. Think of something that shows who you are. Hastings was eager to share her story and her art with the kids. She knew that what they were about to make could be life-changing. Photos of kids in foster care used to be featured on websites at churches and malls, so prospective parents would fall in love with those faces. But 2 years ago, Florida became the first state to prohibit foster children from being seen by unvetted strangers as a way to protect the kids' privacy. The new rule meant adoption advocates had to change tactics. Photographers for the Tampa Art Gallery now take pictures of kids hidden behind baseballs and books. In Pinellas and Pasco, children create heart art. Every week, Hastings leads a new group of kids at the St. Petersburg Art Gallery. They spread out around long tables rimmed with markers, pipe cleaners, and pom-poms. 4 foster kids ages 5 to 16. Hastings clicked a slide into a screen, the art she had created, 7 shades of purple yarn glued onto construction paper, forming a Wrigley garbage bag. When I was growing up in foster care, I never had a home. Every time I moved, I had to pack up all my stuff in trash bags, Hastings told the kids. That doesn't define me now, but it's part of me. The teenager's eyes widened. Conrad, the 5-year-old, looked up at his foster mom. I want to draw a house, he said softly. Our house. Derek and Lisa Wilkes took in the boy in February. He had been in foster care since he was a month old, suffering from 2 traumatic brain injuries. In 5 years, he lived in 6 homes. The couple adored him but didn't plan to adopt him. All these kids in the system have experienced so much trauma and abuse, said Lisa Wilkes, 42. But in 5 months with Conrad, we've already seen so much progress. He's not afraid of the shower anymore, and he snuggles with our German Shepherd. I want to draw a dog, Conrad told her, our dog, and write Daddy. Hastings passed out sandpaper and white t-shirts and told the kids to use crayons. Draw whatever you want to on the sandpaper, and I'll iron it onto your shirt, she said. A Hart Gallery photographer would take pictures of their creations and post them on the website along with each child's first name, age, and a brief bio. Conrad's friendly and outgoing personality shines, his profile says. He likes soccer and swimming, hide and seek, dinosaurs and trucks. His favorite food is bread. Allison, the teenager, finds joy in arts and crafts, drawing and reading, her bio says. She likes attending church and listening to country music, especially Morgan Wallen. Someday she wants to go to Los Angeles. Allison's last Heart Art featured a pink camouflage collage and the phrase, "Never give up." Now she wanted to draw flowers for friendship and butterflies for her mom. That was her favorite thing, said Allison, who was 10 when her mom died and she went into foster care. She sketched a blue butterfly, then erased it and tried again. Hastings has worked at the gallery for a year, helping up to a dozen kids at a time. Some can't talk. Others can't hold a crayon. She asks them questions, helps them draw, encourages them to create whatever makes them happy. Damoni, 13, loves pizza, so his aide drew a slice beside his name. Serenity, 12, didn't want to color, so her foster mom wrote Princess in silver script above a crown. It's about sharing their stories, Hastings said. Art makes that a lot easier. Hastings was 6 when police came to her house in the middle of the night on July 4th and took her and her youngest brother away. Her parents both struggled with addiction. Her brother, who has special needs, had slipped out and wandered away. She moved from an emergency group home to strangers' houses, so many she didn't want to count. I was always searching for a sense of belonging, she said. I couldn't connect because I thought no one understood. When Hastings was 12, her grandmother adopted her. She graduated from Gibbs High's Visual Arts Magnet program, then enrolled at St. Petersburg College, where she earned an associate's degree and is studying for her 4-year diploma. She still sees her brother, who lives at a group home. Working with foster kids, she said, means she gets paid to create art and families. The job also has answered the question that plagued her for years. Why did this happen to me? I used to feel like I lost 6 years of my life, but now I see it, she said, scanning the room of kids coloring. Being in foster care set me up on this path. It doesn't make me upset or angry anymore because it made me who I am. Cool.
Yeah. Our next article is another cool article. It's titled Homegrown Journalism, and it's about how 2 boys started their own neighborhood newspaper as a summer project. Charlie Gooden, who's 11, and John Felker, who's 9, created their own summer activity, a newspaper to deliver to nearby homes. Okay, Paige, come on down here. The boys are next-door neighbors in the Smyrna area of Tennessee, and both attend the Rutherford County's nearby Brown Chapel Elementary School. They walk to deliver their single-sheet newspaper, Daily News, in addition to spending time riding bikes on their street or swimming in the family backyard pool. Their newspaper includes features like animals of the day, such as turtles and snakes, shark and fish, along with drawn images of the critters. There's also a weather report. It's gonna be hot, one forecast said, along with a drawn happy face. Charlie's grandfather, Tim Thompson, said he was pleased with the boys for keeping the neighbors informed about the weather. The 3rd edition, for example, gave a 90 to 100 degree temperature forecast and another warning that it's going to be hot this week. Readers also can enjoy the wit from their newspaper's daily joke. When is the best time to go skydiving? Fall, Charlie says, delivering the punchline that was also described in the 1st edition. The 3rd edition includes the classic, What's black and white and red all around? A newspaper, Charlie will tell you. The boys' families support them using their own creative imaginations for this free daily news activity between their school years. I'm a fan personally of anything that gets kids out from the screen and into the summer, said John's dad, who learned about the boys endeavored through a call from the Daily News Journal. Delivering the news is a time-honored tradition, he said. Those of us who are older remember how fun it was to get the newspaper, so I'm glad they're carrying that tradition on. It's fun to see them use their creativity. John's mom agreed. I think it's fantastic, she said. She recalled learning about the boys' newspaper from a conversation with her son. Hey, Mom, I do a newspaper, John told her. What are you talking about? She recalled asking. He told me all the things he did, and I thought that was really cool. And I'm super proud of him. I think it's very cool, Thompson said. I'm glad they're getting out rather than playing on the computer and the iPad.
The My View article is written by Greg Scarpua, who's never forgotten one of his role models. A great teacher still resonates. Looking back, I feel very fortunate and grateful about the career I was afforded, despite the fact I often wonder how I ever made it to retirement safe and sound. Though I'm still not totally sure how that happened. Some of it was undoubtedly luck, coupled with hard work and perseverance. In high school, if you had told me I would go on to become a CPA and have titles of CFO and controller for the vast majority of my working life, I would not have believed it. Back at that age, I had far-fetched dreams of playing for the Yankees. Right, fat chance of that. Still, I loved playing on local baseball teams and had quite the time, and it probably helped my work life as well. I got the CPA and degree from a very good business school, thanks to, again, some luck, hard work, and perseverance. But there was also help from others. Truth is, I never would have gotten there without these inspiring figures. At the top of my list are my father and mother. Dad was a great guy and taught me a ton of things about life. Just about all of his lessons happened through the best method, by example. My mother had the idea that I was the accounting type, God bless her. Every step of the way, she was probably my best supporter. Along the way, I had a wonderful high school physics instructor who truly was a top-notch teacher. He was not flashy, but was of the best at what he did. My understanding was that he and his two brothers all won scholarships to Syracuse University as swimmers. It takes some talent and ability to pull that off. He was the type of teacher who really went out of his way in the classroom, gently nudging his students to do better. He also commanded our respect in other ways. He had an interesting class presentation method. He was not particularly tall, but had the swimmer's build of broad shoulders and a slim waist. In addition, he had some pretty big biceps for a swimmer. He would stand in front of the class and lean back against his lab table and put a yardstick across his shoulders with his arms draped over each end. This may sound like a bit much, but he pulled it off. He was relaxed at doing it, but also very intimidating. That got my immediate attention. I wondered how many yardsticks he was going to break that year and quickly decided that I would be on my best behavior in his class. It's fairly certain many others were thinking the same thing. In this way, he was able to get the students' immediate attention, and it was a high likelihood that no one was thinking of getting out of line. At least I don't recall anyone ever doing so. The same could not be said for a few of my other classes. Indeed, it was quite the opposite. After this opening, he made a great follow-up act. He made the class interesting, and in his friendly manner, he challenged students. In short, the class was fun, and we learned a great deal. I did well in the class, and it provided me with a spark of confidence that perhaps I could do well academically going forward. It carried me a long way, and I feel extremely lucky to have him as a teacher. I still use some of his problem-solving techniques to this day.
We have a few weeks until Labor Day, but there's a quick note here that Usha Vance gave birth to their fourth child. Second Lady Usha Vance has given birth to her fourth child, Vice President Vance announced on Sunday. The Second Lady, who's now 40, left her job as a high-powered lawyer when her husband became President Trump's second-in-command. She's frequently appeared with the Vice President at his side during the time in office and she's even has her own staff. Do you want to do the closing, Ruth, or do you want me to do it?
You do it, Ted.
Okay. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for July 20th. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. And your readers today have been
Ruth Nowotniak.
and Ted Pajacki. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. blind, have low vision, or have another print disability,